It's Linda MacPhee's workshop. Here's Linda.
Hi, and welcome to a brand new season of fun stuff. We've changed our surroundings. We've actually brought you to my workshop where I do all my crazy stuff. You know I love to sew, and quilting is part of sewing. So today, the whole show is going to be about quilting, but it's about very untraditional quilting. And my first untraditional quilter is Donna. Come on in, Donna. It's nice to have you here.
Thank you for asking me.
Donna Hillier quilts with glass. And I thought, you know, this is the same thing as putting fabric together. Do you suppose you can cheat a little bit with fabric? You can cheat a little bit, but not too much.
I think I can cheat more with glass than I could with fabric. I think.
I like this.
I think I do a lot of cheating on this.
Okay, so you put together, for instance, this looks to me like a quilting kind of pattern.
It is.
So
and I'm
you could
sure
go to
it
a
has
quilt
name.
book? Yeah.
It has a name in a quilt book.
Okay, so for some of our viewers who don't know anything about quilting and don't have a quilt book, could they make some kind of pattern? If you, for instance, I'm just saying, that's going to be kind of boring in one color, so surely you have to do something to it. So what would we do?
Well, we could start out by folding it, just like we're making an origami something.
Yeah.
And do a lot of folds
Yeah.
that turn into something geometric.
So really that's what quilting is all about, is a whole bunch of geometric shapes.
Exactly.
So when we open this out, you could actually cut each one of those squares in a different color, and then you can start dividing. Oh.
Then you can divide it and get as busy and technical as you want.
Sure. So that's basically what quilting is all about. So
exactly.
You could take all of your glass, and you could do the traditional sort of glass technique, and that would just hang in the window. But what has fascinated me is that you have then put some fabric. So, for instance, here we have stained glass techniques, but that's fabric.
That's a real quilt. That's actually a very old quilt. So I go and take quilts that are already made, cut them up, and then turn them into my own version of quilting.
Yes. Or if you, conversely, if you want to make a small little section like that or whatever, are these actually sewn together, or do they have to be?
They wouldn't have to be. I mean, you could sew like how I sew some of these together with a glue stick.
I see. Okay.
Or
a real quilter, yes.
I'm a real quilter.
Yeah, okay.
Or you can actually take bits of old quilts.
Yes.
And use them again. They're keepsakes then.
Okay, so then, for instance, if I have this little piece right here of fabric that's got a great little design, it's in black and white, so how would I incorporate that into something that you've done?
Well, what you would do is you take your fabric. This is your main focal piece.
Okay.
I would use clear glass.
Okay.
I
like the look of this because we're using the same tools that quilters use. We're using the board.
We're using the board.
Okay. What happened to our ruler? Here's our ruler. There we go. Oh, you don't even need a ruler.
I don't even need a ruler because I'm using clear glass. If I was using solid glass, then yes, I could use all the quilter's tools.
Sure, okay.
Except the sewing machine.
Okay, so you don't have a rotary cutter.
So I don't have a rotary cutter. I actually have a specific tool for doing stained glass.
Okay, so let's see how it works then. And you're just going to go along
all
those lines?
I'm doing is scoring it, following the line on my quilting board.
You're straight.
Well, I'm cheating. I've got the line under me.
True.
And then breaking my glass. So this is what I would do for every single little piece is cut out.
But if we wanted to frame this little one, then you said what we would do is actually make some little blocks.
So we would make little blocks.
Okay, and we'll make 2 of those. Yes, okay.
Now, of course, under ideal situations, we'd clean this.
Yes,
so
of
that
course.
It's beautiful.
Yes, of course.
Yes.
Yeah. So you just sandwich
So what you're doing is you're sandwiching it in between.
So, okay. And we'll have it all sort of tucked in there nicely.
And this is where the fudging part comes. Because you trim and you fudge.
Okay, and then you take...
So then I take the copper...
Your bias binding.
I'm using my seam binding.
Okay,
yes.
all right.
Yes. And what I'm doing is wrapping...
And our bias binding comes now with the adhesive on it too, so it's the same.
Really?
Yes,
okay.
Yes.
Well, I wouldn't
You may
know
want to
that.
get into the whole thing too. Sure.
Not
yet.
Not yet. So
Not yet.
You wrap your entire piece of glass in the copper foil. And the copper foil is what keeps the 2 pieces of glass together.
Do we need some scissors?
Nope.
Okay. All right. And then you just...
And then you just seal your edges. I'm sure in sewing terminology, there's something that you do with sealing your edges too.
Well, we fuss about mitering corners, but we don't have to do that, obviously. That's kind of nice. I kind of like that. So now this is finished, or you...
So, well, it could be finished. You could turn this into anything you wanted just by leaving it like this. Or the next step is you would sew your pieces together with the sewing machine. I use the soldering iron.
Okay.
So I use the solder with the iron, and what I'm then doing is
this could be the center section of that.
That could be the center section of that. It could be on its own as a pin.
Well, I notice your necklace.
It could be a necklace.
And because this is all fabric and threads and stuff in there, I think just hang it on to whatever necklace you want, and obviously you'd have to put some kind of a hook on this.
And that's where your soldering comes in.
Okay.
Is that you'd solder the hook on. You can then get a little bit more technical, and you can change the solder to a pewter patina.
Okay, so if I solder that, is it still going to be copper, or does it look different?
It goes silver.
Oh, okay.
And then you can add chemicals to it that turn it to pewter.
All right,
So
let me then explore.
Okay.
Because here, and I think that is just amazing, because those are all some favorite fabrics. And of course, you don't need much for fabric. So
you don't.
That piece, instead of being flat, then now becomes a lid. Okay, so then, I like this. You've managed to put a bobbin and a threader.
Sewing things that I'm really not sure what some of them do, but...
Yeah, but it's there. And
but
for a
it's
sewing
there.
friend, wouldn't that be the greatest little container to hold whatever? So I'm fascinated with this. You could, I mean, just getting back to those, you could create by using just different glasses and using...
You don't even have to follow a pattern. You
Yes,
could just
so
keep on adding
This really
bits.
is not a pattern then. This is just sort of a made-up something or
Geometric
other.
bits that I had that I wanted to use for something.
Wonderful. I am rather delighted. I mean, I think the joy of this is that you don't have to make a great big quilt. You can just make the one square, or you can make the wee little square, or the wee little square.
Or the tiniest of squares.
Yes, yes. I think this is just fascinating. So thank you so much, Donna. I think
Thank you.
You've got me hooked, and now there's yet one more project that I'm going to have to do, and I hope that you will too. But when we come back, we're going to actually get into some other kind of untraditional quilting. And we're back again with some more untraditional quilting. And Donna, I'm going to sort of show you and talk a little bit about fabric kind of quilting. But I thought we just missed this lid for this box. And that's...
Scissors.
Of course, it's such a wonderful little
scissors.
way to finish that off. So that just delights me. So I'll put that over here. And then we'll talk a little bit more quilting.
Okay.
Do you suppose you know what this is going to be made into? I know what you've been wanting.
A jacket for me. Are we making
Sort
me
of
a
like
jacket
this?
now? Sort of like this,
Sort of
yeah.
like this. This looks very much like I've quilted it. I mean, if you look at it, it looks like it could be a lot of work.
Yes.
So we just took that little segment out of this particular bolt. But if you look at this bolt, it's just a whole bunch of, and I shouldn't call it cheater, but look, it looks like you've just pieced this whole thing all together. So what I've done is just cut sections, and cut sections, and cut sections, cut borders out of this. And then we've just used them all along here. So really, it's not rocket science. It's already done. Somebody did it. They printed it on a piece of fabric. So it makes you think that I did all this.
Did a lot of work.
So it comes in black and white and it comes in colored. It just doesn't get much easier than this. So that's one idea for you. So
Okay.
that's a thought. And you probably wanted me to make the jacket.
I did.
Yeah.
I did,
Okay,
yes.
I'll start with something a little more basic with you
Okay.
then. And I think the way to start this quilting stuff is to get a bunch of fabric. So what kind of fabric should we get? I don't know. It doesn't have to be cotton.
Okay.
You know, quilting people often think that it has to be cotton. And I just love so many. You said this sort of looks like...
This is beautiful. It's my front room.
Yeah, yeah. So it does not have to be traditional kind of thing. So
Okay.
I thought, well, how about we make a quilt out of this? I mean, is there any reason we couldn't?
Well, there's a reason why I couldn't, but for you, no.
You
could do
Donna,
this?
I think you could do this. All you do is you cut out some squares. So
Okay.
you decide what size of squares you want.
Okay.
And in fact, you could put all of these together. You could then, line them all up. How big do we want to make this? Can you figure out?
We want to make it cover my bed.
Okay, so how are we going to do that? What would your suggestion be?
The way I would do it?
Yeah.
I would take the pieces and go lay them on top of my bed rather than measuring.
Exactly. Why not? I mean, we don't have to decide. We can just lay them out till it covers. In fact, you could have a look at this and sort of think, is that big enough? Do I like the colors? And you could lay them all out like that.
Okay.
So these could match from line to line, or they don't have to match. I mean, that's the other joy of this. So you'll just take them, serge them together, make some long strips out of all your fancy, fun fabric, and then sew these strips together. And like I say, if you want to match them up, fine. If you want to put them off,
I don't have to.
Yeah, exactly. So let's make a big square.
Okay.
So, here is the big square. So if we look at this, and you were looking at this earlier and saying, this looks like your kind of quilt.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
it doesn't look like a quilt.
This, by the way, could be new fabric, but this could be all of your garments that, you've abandoned along the way don't fit anymore or shrunk or whatever. So this could be a whole hodgepodge of different fabrics, or it could be anything. So what we're going to do then is make all this together into whatever size.
Okay.
And then we're going to put a border on it, because I think the border kind of finishes off. I think you don't want it to just end. It kind of looks like you just, grandma threw all her scraps together, but we want it to look a little classier than that. So, for instance, if this is going to be your quilt, and we'll just score it off like it's a quilt, we'll then take a border, and we'll put a border around it. I've used Cassia satin for this border. If you look at this is our flannel back satin. It's a beautiful body. It gives it just a little touch of class. So here's the flannel side, here's the satin side. Mark your seam allowance, and your seam allowance would be about half an inch in, half an inch in. And then we're going to sew that edge up to that dot. That's sort of, you do those same things when you're,
close.
And then we're going to sew this edge up to that dot. And then we've got to do something with this. And so, of course, the traditional thing is to miter. And a miter means a 45-degree angle. So how are we going to do that? Well, actually, if you lay this out flat, if we lay it out flat like this, we're going to say, okay, where am I going to sew across? And we have our little ruler. Here it is. And these rulers are so clever. They've got a 45-degree angle put on them. So if I put the 45, just a minute, how do I do this? I have to get that lined up with there, and I put the 45-degree angle right there. And I line that up, and I just make my line, and then I sew along that line. So let me just sew there.
Okay.
And then when I sew there, that's going to be a 45-degree angle. It's going to work. So that's what we do along the edges of this. So if you look, let's just find an edge right there. Then we had to put back on it. And you can quilt it if you want, but we decided this was just kind of a throw. So we took another piece of fabric, which is actually the Cassia inside out, and then it wasn't quite big enough, so we had to piece a little bit, and that's what quilting's all about. Put it right sides together and flip it, and top stitch it around the edge, and we're talking done.
And even done decorative
Yes,
on the backside.
Sure. It could be reversible, really. We thought, why don't we do that in a smaller version? So there is a cushion. So you might want to even start with a smaller version. We didn't even miter the corners. We just came off and went around. And instead of bringing this all the way out, the cushion we put in, we actually just top stitched that. So it becomes a flange instead of bringing the cushion right out to the edge. In fact, what we also did on the back was made it two pieces so that you could get in there and get the cushion so that you can close it if you want. So there's another possibility for you. This one's all set to go, so this one's all ready. But I thought another kind of neat thing, and if this is a little too wild. I mean, this is a bit wild.
This is not your mother-in-law's kind of quilt.
No. Some people's mother-in-law, but no. Okay, so let's look at this one, because I thought this was just a really neat idea, because so many people say, I don't think I can do all this quilty stuff. Well, this is just one that's just squares of gentle kind of pastel fabric sewn together with the borders, with the flannel lining. So it makes a wonderful top for your bed. It makes just a wonderful sort of quilty thing that isn't really a whole lot of quilting.
It's not.
So you're with me.
Well, I'm watching you.
So I think quilting doesn't have to be too complicated, and I think that's the fun of this game, is that you decide how much or how little you want to do, and you can just put it together and have some fun.
Or how big or how small.
Exactly.
That you want to
There's no end. So there is no end, because we've got another guest who's going to do, again, some really untraditional quilting, and I know that you're going to like it. husband and I just decided that we would change our cupboards. You know, you can change the whole thing, but if you just change the top, it might just be enough that you didn't have to do the whole thing. So we went tootling off down to this Tile Town place and looking at tiles, and I was just amazed with the array. And the person I met there was Jill, and I was so delighted because she helped us through. And so thank you for coming on the show, Jill.
You're welcome.
Because I said, oh, this is wonderful. This is just like quilting. You're going to cut up all these things and put them together. And I said, does anybody ever make tables?
All
and of course you said yes, and you said that you did just finish your table. And I said, well, come on the show and show us your table. So I thought, this to me looks like what the quilting people do. I mean, sometimes you get a little bit more intricate, and you could get as intricate or as easy as you decide you want. But you're not dealing with fabric, you're dealing with ceramic tiles. What all do you need to put a table together?
Well, you need your plywood.
A base?
Yes, probably at least 3/4 inch thick.
Okay, the other thing that occurred to me is, couldn't you use a table, an existing table?
Yeah, you can. You just have to be careful what the surface is.
Yeah, that's even.
Yes.
Yeah.
And whether it's painted or not.
Okay, if it's painted, that's not good?
No.
You want to take the paint off?
Yes.
Okay, because I thought there must be lots of old tables around that need to have...
But you can just take like thin plywood and
put it on
nail
top.
it down.
Yeah, okay.
And that'll work too.
All right. And we're going to finish off the edge of this. Do we have to worry about that at this stage or not?
Not right now, no.
Okay, all right. And then we need some plywood, and we need some tiles.
And some tile and glue and your tools and grout.
Okay. And the tiles, I mean, you've got to go to one of these tiling stores, because, I mean, there's tiles. Does it matter whether I use wall or floor or whatever? What am I looking for?
For a tabletop that you want to use, I would recommend something rated for floor use.
Okay.
Then you're not prone to any scratching.
But you said you did use wall tile here,
Yes.
because you just tell me what I'm supposed to do, and then you did something different. But that's
I
okay.
have glass over top of
You
this.
put a
yes.
plain glass over top, so
Yeah.
that way it wouldn't really matter.
Right.
So whatever color you want, there comes in a multitude of colors and textures and all that kind of stuff. So I was just fascinated. So we could, I mean, it even comes like this. So quilters, eat your heart out. This is already done. But that's kind of a boring thing. So I thought we should cut some of those and make different colors and stuff like that. And the joy of a tile place is that you can buy one or two of a bunch of different things. So it's just like a fabric store. You could go around and pick bits and pieces. So how do we cut these things? You can't use scissors.
No, you would have to use a tile cutter or a wet saw.
And you're more familiar with the wet saw.
Yes,
you said.
I prefer it.
In fact, you can go to the store and ask them to have them all marked. This is what you do. Is people mark them all and you cut them all for them.
Yep.
So what a deal. But you could also buy a tile cutter. And we sort of, do you want to show us how this one works? You just kind of score it. So, yeah, you're just going to score it, I know, because my husband got very good at this. Yeah, yeah, and then you push it down, I think. Let's see.
There we go.
Oh, wow, what a deal. Look. So there we have, and there's a mesh on the back of that, so I have to pull it apart that way. But yes, you can score them and cut them. So I have a few, because I had such fun when we started doing this. I said, okay, we'll have one of this color and maybe one of this color. I should really take off this. This isn't exactly the kind of coat to be doing all this stuff in. So here we go. One of this color, and one like that, and then to finish off my square, I could go like that. That's not the same size. Oh, well, we could put this one down here. You know, I just had such fun just playing within. How do we keep these together, or how do we figure out how far apart?
Well, you really should map it out on a piece of paper, which you want to do prior.
Okay, and then we can just follow the...
And actually with this one, I had drawn it on the actual plywood prior to gluing
them down. And so it's
down.
just like paint by number then, and you're just filling it in with this.
Yeah.
Okay, how are we going to stick those down?
With some glue and the spreader.
All right. So do I put the glue on the table first, or do I put it on the tile? Okay, so let's put some glue.
You just want to make your little valleys.
Okay, and we sort of want to have that pretty well solid.
Yeah.
Oh, I could make nice designs just within that.
Oh.
Maybe that's all we have to do is put glue. That looks kind of neat. So then, and of course, can we still see our line? You can still see the line if we had a line there.
Yep. You use black marker for sure.
Sure, like a felt pen for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so then if I put this one here, and do I push it right down? Is that...
No, you don't have to.
No? Okay.
Just so that it's in there.
And this is like cement glue. I know when we were doing this, we had little stopper things, little, what are they called?
Spacers.
Spacers. And you put the little spacer in, and that keeps the space all even. We'll just kind of pretend with this one. So we'll put this one up here. Put this one. This is sort of looking like a quilt. And wouldn't it be neat to have the real quilt and then have the table or the... What else could you make with these tables? And, well, covered tops and all that kind of stuff. But you could make trivets or...
Yeah, you can do this sort of thing on your fireplace.
Yes, you could, sure. Okay, so then we would put this down and we would let this dry for how long?
I would let it dry overnight before grouting.
Okay. And then the grouting, to me, was just an amazing thing because I didn't even think about there being different colors of grout. But there's 50 million colors of grout, let alone...
Any color you want.
Colors of tile. So, if we were to grout this, then what color would you...
Well, I have black here.
How about we say black?
Okay.
It'll show up well on television.
Okay.
And, of course, you wouldn't do it at this stage, but let's do it just for the purposes of this game.
Okay.
And this looks like kind of gooey. That's about the consistency that you want?
Yeah, you want it to be quite thick.
Okay.
And you want to push it
You're
into
gonna move a little bit, I guess, unfortunately, but...
Yeah, you want to push it diagonally into your grout joints.
Okay, like that. And I mean, what I discovered when we were doing this is that the grout just makes it come alive because it really, it's like the bias tape around a quilt. It just really makes it come alive. So I was quite fascinated with the whole grout and the idea that it could be different colors.
And then you just have to
wash
wash it
just
off.
Keep washing and washing, especially if it's black.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So you would then go around and you would line up all these tiles, hopefully. I mean, this is why you would draw it out to begin with. You would line it all up just like a quilt so this whole thing comes out to the edge. So you'd have it exactly done to the edge. You don't want to be making circles, I guess.
When you get close to the edge, that's when I would put your edging on so that you could fit it in there.
Okay, so that's when you would put something like this molding, like that, and this molding should just match flush to the top of this.
Well, you can have it a bit higher.
Yeah.
It depends on what you want to do.
Yeah. And you would leave a little space in there for grout as well.
Yes.
Yeah. Could you make a round cut on a tile with your saw?
Well, you would use nippers for that and just bite away at the tile.
Okay, so you could make a round table as opposed to...
it wouldn't be as smooth.
Yeah, squares, I think, would be the smart way to begin.
For sure.
Yeah. Okay, then once I get all this washed off, it's looking good. Do I have to do anything else? Do I have to set it? Do I have to...
You should damp cure it for the next 24 hours. Just go over it with a damp sponge just to make sure you don't have any haze.
Okay, okay. And then it's done?
And then it's done.
I don't have
dry.
to cure this grout or anything? I don't have to seal it?
If you use a white or a light colored grout, then I would recommend sealing it.
Okay, because then it would get dirty.
To prevent any staining.
Yeah. What you did on your table is you put tiles around that edge too, and I think that was quite a wonderful thing to do. Well, thank you, Juliet. I just think all the quilters should be out there doing tables and doing stuff because gluing, it's not all bad. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
I wanted to finish off today because we're talking creativity, and I just like to sort of show you, it's something that I call my liberation license, and I want to read it to you because I think it just says what we want to say. We want to liberate sewing, and of course quilting or whatever. It can be fun, fast, and creative. This license commands you to forget your own personal rules or any you perceive the pattern to have. Every time you make this pattern, it could and should be different. Lengthen or shorten the body and or the sleeves, add or subtract hoods, collars, trimmings, top stitchings, facings, zippers, etc. Try on your garment and make it work for you. What works for you is right. Have fun. You are the master of this pattern. Liberate yourself. Linda MacPhee. So that's my theme, and I hope you'll go by it. Have fun. We'll see you next time when we do this all over again.
To receive the companion book for this series, send $19.98 to the address on your screen or call 1-888-MacPhee.